The torchlight flickers against the damp stone of the atrium, casting long, trembling shadows. Rome, 50 BC. The air is thick with the cloying scent of burnt saffron and silent fear. A girl of 14 does not scream. She watches her father's hand retreat, leaving her shoulder cold. Then, a heavier, rougher hand clamps down on her wrist. Manus. This is the precise moment Roman men did to their brides what was worse than death. It is not an execution, but a total erasure. With the slip of a cold iron ring onto her finger, her name, her ancestral gods, and her past are legally incinerated. She is no longer a daughter or a citizen. She is property, a vessel for the state. Why did the greatest empire in history require the absolute obliteration of its mothers to function? And what terrible, irreversible cost was hidden in the silence of the bridal chamber? A cost that would eventually rot the legions from within. The iron ring was never meant to be removed. If you enjoy these dark histories, leave a like and subscribe and comment below where you're listening from. And now, back to the story. The riotous noise of the street dies the moment the heavy oak door slams shut. The wedding procession, the domum deductio, was a public spectacle of shouting and lewd songs, designed to drown out the weeping of the mother left behind. But silence is the true condition of the bride's new life. Inside the atrium, the air is stagnant. The wax masks of his ancestors line the walls, hollow eyes watching the intruder. She stands on the mosaic floor, shivering not from cold, but from the sudden vacuum of authority. The legal transfer is absolute. A ledger is opened on a cedar table. Her dowry, land, silver, slaves, is cataloged in sharp strokes of black ink. The scribe does not look at her face, only at the pile of coins representing her worth. She has passed from the potestas of her father to the Manus of her husband. In the eyes of Roman law, she has effectively become her husband's daughter, stripped of her previous kin. Her status as an independent human being has been revoked. The husband approaches. He holds out a bowl of water and a burning torch. The ritual is simple: aquae et ignis communicatio. By accepting these elements, she accepts his protection. But the price is her spiritual identity. She must renounce the household gods she has prayed to since birth. The lares of her childhood are now forbidden to her. To speak their names is treason against this new hearth. She reaches for the torch, her hand trembling, and the flame licks at the air between them, consuming the oxygen. Survival demands total compliance. He hands her a heavy ring of iron keys. They are the keys to the pantry, the storehouse, the wine cellar. It looks like power. It is actually a tether. She is now the guardian of his grain, the keeper of his wool. She touches the cold metal, feeling the weight of the house settle onto her spine. There is a quiet will to resist in the way she sets her jaw, a refusal to weep before the wax ancestors. She will manage the house, but she will lock a part of herself away where his keys cannot reach. The keys only work from the inside. The honeymoon is a myth. The reality is a tribunal. The condition of her survival is explicit: absolute purity for the sake of the bloodline. She is not a partner, but a biological vessel that must be guarded against corruption. The state does not police her virtue. He does. Every evening, the ritual repeats. He returns from the forum, dust on his sandals, the smell of politics on his skin. He approaches her not with an embrace, but with the ius osculi, the rite of the kiss. He presses his lips to hers, not for pleasure, but to taste her breath. He is hunting for the scent of tamitum, the forbidden strong wine. In the early republic, wine is believed to be an abortifacient, a trigger for adultery. To drink it is to poison the future citizens of Rome. He pulls back, his eyes narrowing as he inhales. She does not flinch. She offers no defense, no explanation. "I taste only water," she says. It is a cold, flat refusal to be intimidated. The rules tighten. It is not just wine. Ignatius Mecanius once beat his wife to death with a cudgel for drinking from the vat, and Romulus himself acquitted him. The precedent hangs in the air like smoke. Her life is held in the manus of her husband, and he possesses the vitae nescisque potestas, the power of life and death. He can convene a family council, judge her, and execute her in the cellar without a single magistrate interfering. The law stops at his door. Perfection is the only defense against erasure. The pressure shifts from physical to psychological. He watches her grief. Is she mourning her father too much? Is she loyal to her old name? She learns to weep only in the dark. She creates a second self, a woman of marble and wool. The deprivation of her voice, meant to break her into submission, instead calcifies into a terrifying discipline. She becomes the univira, the one-man woman, a paragon of such severe virtue that she becomes untouchable. She stands by the loom, the shuttle in her hand. She pauses. For a second, she raises the sharp wooden point as if to strike the threads, or perhaps something else. Then, she lowers it slowly. The rhythm of the loom resumes. Clack, clack. This is the answer to the core question. Why the erasure? It was never about love or even partnership. It was about the paranoia of legitimacy. The Roman state required absolute certainty of paternity to function. The price was the woman's humanity. But in this furnace, the bride changes. She uses her keys not just to lock the pantry, but to lock him out of her soul. Her silence becomes a mirror that reflects only his own paranoia back at him. She has paid the price, and now she owns the house because he cannot function without her virtue to validate his rank. The judge sleeps beside the accused. Decades later, the atrium smells of incense and decay. The master of the house is dead. His wax mask has been cast and now joins the silent rows of ancestors on the wall, staring out with blank, painted eyes. The woman standing before them is no longer the trembling girl from the intro. She is draped in the stola of a matron, her posture rigid as a column. She holds the iron keys, but they no longer feel heavy. They feel like extensions of her own fingers. She moves to the tablinum, the office where the records are kept. This was forbidden ground once. Now, she breaks the seal on the cedar chest without hesitation. Inside lie the scrolls of the estate, the grain yields, the slave purchases, the dowry agreements. Historical excavation of Roman wills reveals a startling contradiction to the narrative of total submission. Widows often emerged as the primary executors, the domina in full reality. She runs a finger over the ink of her husband's will. He has left the management of the bloodline to her. The state believed it was erasing a woman to build a family. In reality, it was forging a matriarch who would ruthlessly perpetuate the system. She dips a quill into black ink. She does not sign her father's name, nor truly her husband's. She signs as the mother of the next generation. A young man enters, her son. He brings a girl, barely 14, terrified, clutching the fold of her tunic. The cycle turns. The matron looks at the girl, not with sympathy, but with the cold, appraising eye of a livestock trader. She checks the girl's hips, her teeth, the fear in her eyes. The rebirth is not a liberation. It is an assimilation. The woman has survived the Manus marriage by becoming its most efficient enforcer. She reaches out, not to comfort the girl, but to grip her wrist, checking the bone structure. She turns to the household shrine, the lararium. Hidden behind the statues of the gods is a small wooden box. She opens it to reveal a collection of iron rings. She is not the victim of the history. She is the curator of the prison. The hidden truth is that the Roman Empire was not built on the backs of men, but on the silence of women who learned to value survival over mercy. She hands the iron ring to her son. The victim is dead. Long live the architect. Walk through the Appian Way today. The tombs of the great families stand like broken teeth against the blue sky. Read the epitaphs chiseled into the marble: Claudia, Julia, Cornelia. These are not names, they are labels of ownership, feminine derivatives of a father's clan. The inscriptions are terrifyingly identical. She kept the house. She spun wool. Domum servavit, lanam fecit. That is the sum total of a human life, recorded by the greatest civilization on earth. The ledger entries from Act 3 are dust. The keys that felt so heavy in Act 4 are now rusted into unrecognizable lumps of iron in the drawers of museum archives. The individual woman has been successfully scrubbed from the timeline. We have the speeches of Cicero, the wars of Caesar, the biting poetry of Ovid. But of the millions of brides who walked into the atrium and watched the heavy door close, there is only a deafening silence. The worse-than-death fate was not torture. It was to be turned into a function. The girl who entered the house was extinguished so the Roman matron could exist. The personality was cauterized to seal the bloodline. Listen to the wind moving through the ruins of the forum. It does not carry the sound of weeping. It carries the heavy, suffocating silence of consent. The ultimate success of the Roman marriage system is that we cannot hear the women screaming. They didn't scream. They became the system. The iron ring on the finger was not a shackle you could break. It was the rim of the well you fell into. The irreversible cost was paid in full, and history has burned the receipt. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like. The stone remembers the name of the father, but the mother is just the empty space between the letters.